Welcome to the hit show Love Living Radio. Ignite your whole being with Emily Perkins on transformationtalkradio.com. Do you love your life? Are you truly free in being your authentic self? In a stress-filled world full of distractions, Love Living Radio is a space to explore how mindful presence can steer you toward an ignited life. What does a life you really love look like? Emily shares her innermost vulnerabilities and breaks down barriers through conversations about sex and relationships, the magic of plant medicine, and so much more in order to share the power of living your life with love and loving the life you live. Now, here's your host. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am Emily Perkins, and this here is a sleeping mulligan joining us for our show today. And you are listening to Love Living Radio. It's still so funny for me to even say that. It just kind of hit me. Love Living Radio. Sometimes I have these moments where I'm just like, wait, am I really doing this? And it just kind of hits me. And I've been thinking about that a lot actually today for some reason, like the sequencing and the flow of my life. All of the things that have led me from like one thing to the next have been so organic and so fluid. They like just kind of blend into each other. And when the next phase and the next step comes up, it just feels right. Like it just shows up and it's just like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do next. And we're actually going to talk about what's next today also. But today I feel kind of like excited and really nervous, to be honest, to talk about what I'm talking about today. It's been something much like my life that has just naturally kind of flowed and shown up. And has shown up really powerfully for me in the past month, really kind of coming together. So what the heck am I talking about? About 2 years ago, almost to the date, well, like a little less than 2 years ago, I went to Costa Rica for my first ever solo trip. And I went to this place called the Waterfall Villas in Dominical, which is on like the Pacific southern coast. And it was one of the most magical experiences of my life. Not only was it just insanely freeing and empowering to travel by myself in a different country, pretty much for the first time, but the experience itself was just pure magic. I was like in the rainforest by a waterfall, getting to do healing work and yoga and feeding my body well and surrounded by nature. And it was just like in my Mecca. And I met a bunch of really cool people while I was there. And one night we were all sitting around the dinner table and we decided to pick cards from an oracle deck. And it was the Isis deck, which is a goddess. She's incredible. And the card that I chose was the Scales card. And that what that meant was that I, according to this card, was an initiate for balancing and bringing to harmony the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And for those of you who don't know what that might mean, there are two primary energies that live within all of us. Our divine feminine is our left side. Mulligan seems to be really excited about that. Our divine masculine is our right side. And they have very distinct qualities. And these qualities show up in in everything. They show up in nature. They show up within us. They show up in our personalities and how we approach life. And they show up in this dude all the time. So he just wants to be closer to me. That's all. So these energies, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, could not be more important to talk about than right now. We've seen over the past year, especially, but to be honest, it's been building for the past probably 3 years, this shift towards the feminine, Everybody's calling it the feminine rising. And it's palpable. Like you can see it in so many different aspects, not just the women's marches and all the stuff that's coming up in the political world. But we can see it especially within ourselves, this opening into the feminine qualities, which are the emotional body, nurturing, creativity. There's this blossoming of the feminine energy happening. And what I've noticed is that as this feminine energy is rising, um, there's this interesting relationship that starts to happen. And, I'm just going to talk about it personally because otherwise it just feels kind of like way out in the vapor, right? So, as most of you who have been watching the show probably know, I work with this company called Core a lot, and I do a lot of their workshops. And a lot of them are strangely about healing the feminine and the masculine. So this past workshop that I just did in the beginning of November was called Noble Man. And I've done it before and it was insanely powerful. But for whatever reason, this one was just mind-blowingly powerful for me. I took away so much from it, but what I really started to sink into was this masculine and feminine and what's next. Like what is next for this new shift that's coming for everybody, most especially inside of myself. And it was so cool, kind of like what I was talking about in the beginning, to see the progression, the levels, and the way that the puzzle pieces of my life have led me to here. Those puzzle pieces looking like the heartbreak and divorce, which I talked about last time, and getting thrown into personal transformation. And that first like really big workshop that I did with Core was around my femininity and sisterhood and healing my own divine feminine and fully embracing and embodying the archetypes and the energy and the power of the divine feminine. It was so beautiful and so powerful. And then once you do that, then you're allowed to go graduate onto Radiant Woman, which Radiant Woman is about healing your relationship with men. And we all have some kind of a relationship with the masculine and the feminine, right? Whether it's our parents, which is where we come from, the masculine and the feminine, or it's our like actual relationships with our parents, our mom and our dad, those first primary relationships, not to mention the relationships that we build there forward. So we all have stuff to be able to work with. And for me, healing my stuff around the masculine was just insanely powerful. It really, really was. Getting held and seen and to have men show up so powerfully to support a group of women just blew my mind. It really did. And then came Noble Man. And it was like this waterfall where everything suddenly sunk into place and made sense. And Noble Man is a workshop for men, held space, and supported by women. So men get to show up exactly as they are. And it's men from all over the place, from every different background, every age, every religious view, every socioeconomical background. It runs the gamut of the diversity that shows up to these workshops. It's not like only the hippie guys from California who are into yoga and transformational work. It's like 75-year-old farmers from the middle of the country. It's fathers and sons and uncles and brothers of mostly women who have done this work, who have just stood for these men to show up. And it is, it is beyond powerful as a woman to get to witness men unfold. It is beyond powerful. It is so flipping beautiful. And I guess what I really saw was this synchronicity, this like amazing, um, this amazing reality that men experience so much of the same thing women do. Like I saw that men also simply want to be held and seen and appreciated and respected, to be chosen. I literally heard those words, exact words, come out of the mouths of all of these men. And it's not just one man. That's what really shook me, was like watching how there was so much um, consistency in the male experience that also showed up in the feminine experience of just wanting to be loved. And honestly, that hit me. But the thing that hit me even more powerfully was how much men wanted to show up for women, how much they wanted to love the women in their life. Like, it just shook me to my core. It really did. It was the most beautiful thing. And not only do they want to show up, they really want to be like there. They want to love and cherish and feel good enough, because there's the shadow masculine and the shadow feminine, and the golden feminine and the golden masculine. And what those words basically mean is it's like the ego side of both sides. That's the shadow, right? It's like our darkness that we all have. And then the golden side is like our healthy self, our essence, our higher self, however you want to think about it. But the shadow feminine shows up as so many different things, but it can show up as the martyr. It can show up as the caretaker. It can show up as the manipulator or the victim or controlling, or cold and distant. And all of those ways that the shadow feminine show up, it's natural. It happens in all of us. As humans, we have a survivor self and a healthy self, right? And inside of that survivor self shows up as shadow sometimes. So when that feminine shadow shows up, I was able to see in these workshops how deeply that can affect men. To see the pain and the hurt and the longing in men that just broke me. It broke me open. Because as a feminist, I've been a feminist, honestly, since birth. Like, I think I came out of the womb a feminist. And the biggest distinction that I like to make, which I actually talked about in the last show, was that feminism is actually just about equality. It's not about women over men, because that's just the same patriarchal structure that we already have. The feminine, the divine feminine qualities are connection and collaboration and nurturing. And in that, like, that is the golden side of the feminine. That's the side that can hold men in their pain, that can hold men in their wounds and the struggle and the fear. I'm just so present to this like reality of humanity, right? Like, there's this shadow part of us, the shadow feminine, as controlling, caretaking, the martyr, the victim, the manipulative. And then there's also the shadow masculine too. And I personally had to do a lot of healing around the shadow masculine and how it affected me in my life. I, like many women, as we can see over the past year in the media, uh, was raped and have been through actually multiple counts of sexual assault. And it took me a really long time, like over a decade, to even be able to say that out loud. And it was freeing when I did. But, that's the shadow masculine. It's controlling and overpowering and abusive and greedy and also like controlling and suppressing. Like that's a way that the both shadows show up is control. But like many women, uh, I would have been I don't like saying a victim because I don't see myself as a victim, but I have been, I have felt the effects of the shadow masculine. And I needed to be able to heal and see and acknowledge the fact that it was the shadow masculine and not all men, and not like how men treat women as a generalization. It was simply how the shadow masculine comes out when men also don't feel loved and seen and appreciated, when they feel threatened or scared, right? Because that's what our survivor self does. It protects us when we feel scared or not enough or threatened. And the shadow feminine sometimes makes the shadow masculine feel that way. And to be clear, um, this is not an excuse. It's not a way of me legitimizing abuse or the things that men do. It's really just allowing a little bit of humanity and compassion for both men and women. And I guess that's where we're going. That's why I decided to do this show, was to talk about the stuff that we might not be talking about and seeing in the media right now. And the stuff that's hitting so close to home for me after doing these workshops with men, seeing the love and the devotion and the willingness and the vulnerability in men. And seeing also and realizing how powerful that is, that men showing up and doing their work and loving and showing that devotion, how insanely healing that is for women. Like it was kind of blew my mind for what really is like the potential for the future. Because we think about the feminine rising, we think about, okay, women stepping up and taking control and taking power and taking the lead. But what has really kind of settled in for me over the past month is that the divine feminine qualities are togetherness. Like the way forward has to be for us to go together, to walk and hold hands together. I mean, that I just like know in the very depths of my soul, in my bones. Um, and that, like, in loving and acknowledging what's there, in men, and like this beautiful process of them just cracking their hearts open in front of women can create so much healing. That actually, what if healing the feminine, what if the feminine rising, what if feminism can actually come from the healing of men? It's kind of a different way of thinking about it, right? Like it's kind of a different way of thinking about a lot of things. God, the relationship between men and women, what's been happening in the media, what's happening next, how it's been for the past however many decades. It's definitely a different way of thinking about it, that in men healing, it therefore in turn heals women. And I cannot stress how powerful that is, only if not anything from my own personal experience. How deeply healing it was for me to be able to witness men in their raw vulnerability, to witness men in their longing for love and appreciation, to witness men in their devotion. Oh, I think that's what made me cry the most every time. I mean, I pretty much bawled the entire weekend watching these men and hearing their stories, and different stories, but with so much of the same qualities. I just kept seeing these themes show up over and over again in this crazy different variety of men, that they just so badly wanted to love their women, that they just so badly wanted to be loved and cherished in return. And I also saw how powerful it was for me to show up in that, to show up in the devotional, loving, unconditionally loving woman, how powerful that was for their own healing. It's miraculous. It's miraculous. And if anything, like, if you have any interest in these core workshops, it is literally watching miracles happen and witnessing them for yourself over and over and over again. Mm. So, before we go to the break, I just want to kind of like almost settle this in. The power of the masculine and the feminine healing each other, the power of the masculine and the feminine loving and showing up and cherishing one another. Like, what would it be like if men and women cherished one another? Mm. All right, I'm going to let you think about that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a little bit. Thanks, guys. Feminine, and what it would be like if we, right? Like, let's bring it in to real time. You, me, us. What happens if men and women cherished each other? What would life look like? What would our world look like? And whether you're gay, straight, bi, gender fluid, however you associate yourself, or no label, um, it doesn't actually matter. We all have a relationship to the masculine and the feminine, either within ourselves or within the relationships in our life. Like, it's either way, it's half or more than half the population. So we all have our relationship to this. And I guess the potential, the possibility that I see in us cherishing one another is this like sweetness, this understanding that we're all human and that we all want and desire the same things, that we all have so much of the same pain, and that we all struggle with our own shadow sides. You know, they may show up differently, but we all show up at some point. Honestly, 90% of the time, we're coming from our survivor self, that defended self. So our shadow side shows up fairly powerfully a lot of the time. And it's really good to actually, it's like super powerful to know your own shadow, to see how your stuff shows up. You know, I even saw it show up in the Nobleman workshop. There's a part of me that loves to feel like the special one, that loves to feel like the one that all the men want. You know, like that is my shadow. And I can call it out and I can see it. And in calling it out and seeing it, I can actually hold space better. I can actually show up more powerfully for these men because I know my own shadow instead of it just playing out automatically without me realizing it. You know, so get to know your shadow. It's actually a big piece in understanding how we can come together as men and women to cherish one another. We have to look our shadow in the face. And on both sides, it can be pretty gnarly. The shadow masculine shows up, shadow feminine shows up, and it's not pretty sometimes. And it's pretty challenging to look at in yourself and to be that honest with yourself. But it is so deeply in service of everything. You know, of you having better relationships with the people in your life, with men and women in your life, with us having a more loving, cherishing, beloved relationship with one another. So, the whole reason why I am talking about this is because after that workshop in Costa Rica, after these core workshops over the past couple of years, after all of this beautiful awareness around men and women, I have realized that there's a certain calling, my what's next, right? Like I talked about in the beginning, like all of these steps in my life that have led me fluidly and effortlessly into the next phase of what's next. My what's next is stepping into cherishing and holding and unconditionally loving in order to heal and bring harmony to the divine masculine and the divine feminine. I know that. Like, I know from that card I pulled in Costa Rica, which I miraculously and not so ironically pulled again at a core leadership workshop. I've seen this recurring message pop up everywhere in my life, that what I'm here to do, or part of what I'm here to do, is to bring unity to the masculine and the feminine. And it has been a little bit overwhelming and daunting to figure out what that looks like. But I think trusting the flow of my life, it's just kind of showed up. So funny enough, I'm actually hosting a retreat and a Reiki 1 and 2 certification, which is really honestly just about tuning people into a deeper level of intimacy and a higher frequency of love. And I'm teaching it at the retreat that I went to 2 years ago and got that first message. And it just feels like this beautiful full circle, this amazing full circle of like, oh, okay, all of these pieces, me getting my own Reiki certifications, going through the core workshops, doing my own inner healing, traveling, everything has led me to coming back to this place to lead, which feels so crazy. And and honestly, a huge honor. And when I tune into the energy of this workshop, it is massive. It is just like, and it's massive in the way that you feel like an enormous hug. Like it's just so deliciously healing. And um, it's like bathed in light. That's the only way I can explain it. Um, and it is so much about healing the masculine and the feminine energies to create this power within intimacy, within love. The other part, which feels really scary and exciting and vulnerable for me to talk about, is what I am going to be doing with this awareness, with this calling. Um, and especially after the Nobleman workshops. So I was sitting in a meditation, maybe like a week or two after the Nobleman workshop, and I had like this aha moment, which doesn't always happen in my meditation. Sometimes it's just my brain wandering off into many different directions. But in this particular meditation, it kind of just like struck me that what's next for me, or part of what's next, there's a lot of pieces for 2019, which I'm super excited to share with you. One of those pieces, which feels so close to my heart and feels so powerful, is group coaching for men. So what that means is starting in January, I will be starting a group coaching program, which means I'll have about 8 men, um, or it's available to 8 men. Whoever shows up is who is divinely meant to be there. Um, and this space is really unique. At least I think it is. It's a space for men to get supremely held by a woman, unconditionally loved and supported by a woman, and also supported by a brotherhood. Because that's what I really saw in these Nobleman workshops in terms of like the power and the healing for men and women, is that men get to just be so supremely held by a woman that they get to crack wide open and get supported by their brothers. So what does that look like? What does that actually mean? Well, so the group coaching is going to be 6 months, and we'll meet every week, and it'll just be this open space with some structure around creating whatever it is these men want in life. There isn't like, oh, you have to be, a spiritual guy in order to do this, or you have to be a guy looking to build his business in order to do this. There's no box. This is a space for men who want to get supported, who probably want to heal some kind of a relationship with women. But more importantly, it's a space for men to just grow, to get super loved and supported in order to just move forward. So if you're looking for greater intimacy in your life, if you're looking to grow your business, or maybe start a business, if you're looking to create deeper relationships with men, if you're looking to create a deeper relationship with yourself, if you're looking for the love of your life, like this space is really for men who are willing and wanting to create something in their life, to feel really fulfilled, to have this big, bold, vibrant life. Maybe you want to start traveling. Maybe you want to start writing a book. This space is really, this coaching program is for men to be just unconditionally loved and cherished by a woman. There's going to be some structure and some awesome, like really, really cool exercises and like actual physical tools for you to kind of like grab onto. But I think what makes this space so special is that you just get to be you. Like it is absolutely not a woman telling you how to be a good man. It is absolutely not a woman trying to fix you. It is absolutely not like some hokey space where guys are going to tell you what to do either. like, and it's not competitive. This is a brotherhood and a divinely held space for men, which, there's not a whole lot of that. There really isn't. There's not enough space for men to just get held and supported. And it feels like just an incredible honor. It feels like an incredible honor to me to be able to offer this to men. It also feels super edgy. Like all the parts of me that show up are like, whoa, who do you think you are? But you know what? Like, I'm not showing up as what people think coaching is sometimes, which is like advice giving or like telling you how to structure your life or trying to fix or heal you. That's not it. That's not actually what coaching is. Coaching is really actually just showing up as a partner with someone to support them and love them unconditionally and to actually just reflect back their greatness, to let them know their own answers because you are the expert of your own life, not me. And it's just a matter of having a little bit of love and someone to hold your hand to like unravel and uncover those answers or that you that's just like like banging on the walls of your heart to let it out. So that's one of the big things. And it's the thing that I'm like, oof, like jonesing to share, like so excited to share and to love. Like, I just want to show up and love you. Oh, like so bad. So, men out there, if you're looking to create something, if you're looking to create a new beginning for yourself in 2019, however that looks, whatever your deepest desire is, I want to love you through it. I really do. And you have to be brave. Like I noticed that in these workshops watching these men, you have to be brave to show up to this, to show up to yourself. Because that's really what you're showing up to. Every time in coaching, that is what you're showing up to. You're showing up to yourself. And ladies out there, if you feel like there's a man in your life who would love this and maybe get something out of this, maybe give them just a loving hug by sharing it with them. Not forcing, but offering. Sometimes that's all we need is just someone to offer what it is we're looking for. And the other piece of this is an offering for women. And I don't often talk about my coaching practice or what I'm doing, but I think the reason why I feel so called to do it now is that it feels like something that is just needed. Like the reason why I show up to this radio show is to love and support. That's the reason why I show up in every area of my life, to be honest. It's why I'm a coach. It's why I'm a healer. It's to love and support. And I want to do it like badly. I'm chomping at the bit to love you. And so there's this part that is for men, which feels really special, like really special to me. And at the same time, there's also the part that's for women. So I will have also in 2019 in January be starting a group coaching program for women that's very similar. It'll be for 8 women. We'll meet once a week for 6 months. And the name that keeps resounding in me is the Sacred Sisterhood. And this space is for women to just share what's going on for them and to get super supported in moving forward also. And again, it's the same thing. If you're looking for greater levels of intimacy, if you're looking for financial growth or career growth, or if you're looking for a purpose, if you're looking to find the love of your life, this space is really just a sacred sisterhood um, that is meant to just propel you forward. And there is something, if you haven't read the book, The Power of Eight, I highly recommend it. But it's basically the science behind how insanely powerful group intention is. And that's part of the structure of these two group programs also, is that actually by holding each other, by creating intention around each of these things, that whatever it is you're trying to move forward, that in having eight minds and eight hearts and eight spirits behind the thing that you want, it's like mega power. It is like amplified times, I don't even know, it probably says in The Power of Eight by however much, but it's insane. Um, it's truly powerful. So in these groups, not only are you getting the support of your brotherhood or your sisterhood, but you are also getting supported by by a woman, by the feminine, by someone who just wants to show up and love you and show you how incredibly beautiful and magnificent you are in every possible way. And, with so much happening in the world right now, and honestly, outside of that, with so much happening personally for people, like the landscape of our lives feels so tumultuous and rocky and scary and hard sometimes. That like this is 1 hour a week where you just get to be held in it, where you get to lean into that dream, where you get to explore what that dream looks like and have a group of women and men manifest it for you. It's cuckoo. It's like crazy powerful. So there's these moving pieces of what my 2019 looks like. And for me, it's a big step, to be honest. Like, in me just being super honest with you, like it's going to be me taking a step back from my one-on-one private practice, which I've been fostering and building for 8 years, and creating this new energy, this new group energy that gets to reach more people and affect more lives. It is also in my workshop work. I have a couple of workshops coming up for Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 in January, but this Costa Rica retreat is really like the harmony of the past 4 years of transformational work that I've been doing. It's really exciting. And I'm co-leading it with two of my favorite humans on the planet. My best friend, who was on the show, I don't know, a couple months ago. We did a show about sisterhood and best friends. And then another beautiful woman who was on my show about CBD oil. So Maggie Drayton and Asa are going to be co-hosting this magical retreat with me. And it just feels like this just powerhouse feminine energy that is just ready to love and nurture and explode the world with magic. It's so flippin' exciting. I can't even handle it. So, in kind of honing in and bringing all of this together, why I called this episode Noble Men, What's Next for You and Me? It's really all of these pieces, acknowledging the masculine, acknowledging the feminine, acknowledging the ways in which we've wounded each other, and acknowledging that the way forward looks a little bit more feminine. And men, you have the feminine in you too. So what that actually means is moving forward together in community, in collaboration, in nurturing one another, in creativity. Those are all the aspects of the divine feminine. And ladies out there, for those of you who feel this, who feel how powerful it might be for men to heal in order for you to heal, who maybe feel how powerful it might be to heal your relationship around men in order to love them better. I call you forward. I do. I call you forward because that is what's being asked of us. That is what's being asked of each and every one of us right now, is to love more, to heal what's there for us in order to love more. We can very easily get swept up in fear and anger and resentment. And the only place that that leaves us is stuck in fear and anger and resentment. I'm not a preacher. I don't like to preach because there is no one way. But in the very depths of my soul, I know that the way forward is together. And in order to do that, we have to be brave enough to do the work. We have to be brave enough to look at our own shadow. And we have to be brave enough to look at the wounds that were created by the divine, or by the shadow, masculine and feminine. Because both men and women have wounds from both. Women have experienced wounds from the shadow feminine. Other women cause each other pain all the time. To me, that's one of the greatest hindrances to feminism and equality, is actually women not coming together, not unifying in our femininity, not unifying in our goal for equality. And honestly, even just loving one another instead of competing against one another. Hmm. Hmm. I'm not really much of a preacher. I'm noticing that, like I that's not actually my intention. And I'm not very political, to be honest, which may may not seem like something from what I've been talking about today, but I feel like this is my way of reaching the hurt that's happening in the world, and maybe creating a little bit of hope, maybe a little bit of light forward, because we're all at some point in our lives, we all feel so alone. It's this funny human condition. I was in a group coaching program that I love, that I'm in, and I'm very honored to be a part of. Um, and one of the women said she noticed this "I'm the only one" syndrome, which I've talked about before. Like this concept of us always feeling like we're alone as humans, and it's amazing to watch that melt as we start to share. Sharing is caring. It's not just like sharing your food or sharing your money. Like, sharing is caring. It's actually sharing your experience, sharing your heart, your vulnerabilities, sharing your hurts and your wounds. That's actually sharing is caring, because in you sharing your vulnerability, you're instantly healing a part of someone else. It's so beautiful. It's what creates togetherness. What like unifies the human race. Our humanness and our vulnerability. So, thank you, one, for all those who have done me the great honor of watching this. And this is a calling to those who want to be loved and to love deeper, to those who want support, to those who are brave enough to get supported, to those who are brave enough to crack wide open to see what's really in there, to have the life that you really, really want, like really, really want. Mm. I consider it like an enormous honor to do this kind of work. And I would really, truly love to love you. So thank you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, if you're interested in the group training and group coaching programs or the workshops, reach out. You can find me at lovelivingholistics.com. Follow me on Instagram, lovelivingholistics.com, or you can email me at emily@lovelivingholistics.com. There's all sorts of ways. Follow me on Facebook. Whichever way, get in touch. Reach out. You're not alone. I am Emily Perkins. You have been watching Love Living Radio, and I wish you so much love in your life. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you for listening to Love Living Radio, Ignite Your Whole Being with Emily Perkins. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern on transformationtalkradio.com as Emily shares the power of living your life with love and loving the life you live. For more information or to listen to past shows, visit lovelivingholistics.com. That's lovelivingholistics.com. See you next time.